Hey, this is Nicolette Moore from NicoletteMoore.com, and today I have Justin Barclay with me. Justin is a champ. He is amazing. Justin started with network marketing way back when he was 18 with AMWAY, and then he developed a passion for radio, and so he's had a very interesting journey. He definitely has a passion for connecting with people, and he lives to inspire and motivate. And he has a podcast, and his theme is on purpose. So he definitely has a passion for improving people's lives, and you can find his podcast on Glenn Beck's Blaze Radio Network, and you can check him out on his blog. So Justin, I'd love for you to come out and kind of share a little bit more about your story. I'd love to hear about your AMWAY experience. You discovered it at 18. How did that come about, and what's your journey been like since?
Well, it's thank you, by the way, for having me. This is awesome and going to be a lot of fun. I started as a kid in high school, and just out of high school, one of the Spanish teacher actually came and talked to a buddy of mine. We had graduated, I think, that year, and said, "Hey, I got this thing. I'm working on this project. I want to show you." So he flipped open this really cool binder that had these flip pages in it and showed us, you started drawing the circles. You see, you get one person and then that person gets another. And then he just started building those circles, and I was hooked. I loved it. I loved every part about it. I was never a kid who liked to color inside the lines. So I loved the freedom. I loved the fact that it was giving you the ability to create your own future. And the only problem was I had just come into contact, really started working in radio. I got my first radio gig when I was, I guess, a senior in high school, and I was working part-time. Eventually I got a full-time job out of the market, and I had a chance to move away, and I thought, man, I got to pick one or the other. And I picked radio, and it was and honestly, it was, everything happens for a reason. So I totally, I'm so glad that I did, but I picked radio, and I moved away to Biloxi, Mississippi from Indiana, and never looked back. But one of the things that I'll tell you about, and just 4 years ago, in 2012, I lost my dream job. I'm 20 plus years in radio, and I'm a reformed radio shock jock. And that just means that I don't do it full time anymore. But I was sitting and thinking about, why did I have so much success? Because I had a chance to really kind of start from scratch when I lost my job in 2012. Why was I so successful with that? What was it? What were the things that made me successful? And one of the things that I really kind of landed on was my AMWAY experience. The fact that I was around these people who lifted me up, who encouraged me to be more and to do more. And to read, to pour into myself, to take on self-development. And, when I got moving into the radio, I kind of left some of that to the side, but it was that little bit of time that I spent with other folks and going to meetings and going to like I went to this conference in Atlanta. They're big. I don't remember what it was called, but it was huge. This huge stadium, the Georgia Dome, I think it was, filled with all these people that wanted more for their lives, that wanted more in their life, and the people that were making it happen. I remember watching the Diamond speak, and listening to the tapes in my car when I was driving, so much of that, it just poured in, like it just made a mark. It seared it into my soul. And that was that. And I really feel like it's that little bit of time that led to me being able to climb to the top of the ladder in that industry and radio, because most people don't do those things. Most people don't pour into themselves. Most people don't take on personal development or growth or goals even. They don't have any of these ideals as far as what the direction is going to be. And so just getting into that industry, which is really personal development with an income opportunity attached to it, was like, and at 18, like, this is something that I feel like our kids should be doing, instead of, some of the classes we have in high school or maybe college, like, just go work on your network marketing business. Go find one of those companies, an MLM, go find a network marketing business and run with it, because it's an education in itself. So yeah, looking back 4 years ago, I thought, man, that was it. My short run is what I think led to a lot. Now you see all these books back here and stuff. And back in 2012, I started reading again. It was those habits that came back to mind. I said, okay, if I'm going to do something different, because in 2012, I had no idea. I kind of like reinvent myself. If I'm going to do something different, the only thing I knew is that I wanted more. I didn't want to do what I was doing anymore. I didn't want to work a full-time job anymore. I didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket anymore. I wanted more control over my life, and I was going to do something different. I had to become someone different. And how was I going to do that? I thought, I got to read more. I got to read. And I was not a big reader in school. I didn't like to read any of those things, but I started reading. And when I started reading and reading and reading, every book that I pick up, I would want to read more. It's like, there's something to this. I don't know what it was, but it was what I was reading. Was I interested in what I was reading? It's just being curious and reading some of these great books. And I started to set these goals. And I remember saying, okay, it's not enough. I'm not reading enough. I need to grow faster. I need to learn more. I need to pour more in. How can I do that? So I set a goal to read a book a week one year, a couple of years back. And that stuck, and it hit. And it was amazing. And I go, okay, I need to read faster. So I learned how to speed read even, which was even crazier. Then I started listening, Audible, books on tape, stuff like that, just kind of pouring in podcasts, all of that. So personal development, growth, all of that was a huge, and is a huge part of network marketing and MLM business, but played a huge role in my success on the radio. And to this day, I don't think I would have, I probably would have done okay, but I don't think I would have. I guarantee you, I know for a fact, and I'll tell you this quick story. A good buddy of mine that I was working in radio with at the time in my hometown, he got a job offer to go to Cincinnati, a much bigger market, a guy he used to work with. And I was reading this book at the time called Who Moved My Cheese? And he didn't want to do anything different. He didn't want to really reach out and do anything what he was doing, anything separate from what he was doing. And this took a lot for him to get out of his comfort zone. Well, I remember saying to him, hey, buddy, I'll drive you over there. Let's go. This will be fun. So I drove him over. He met with everybody. He accepted that job, and that job dramatically changed his life. And it was funny because relationships, right, and how this works. I took my first full-time, gig down in Biloxi, Mississippi, and I was there for about 9 months. And he said, hey, man, we got a job opening here. Would you like to come up here? And I said, yes. And that single-handedly changed my life. But if I hadn't read that book, Who Moved My Cheese, and given it to him, and then been with him just along the way, because he's super talented, so I'm not taking credit for his career, but like just been with him along that journey. I'm telling you, if it wasn't for network marketing, I would have never made it in radio. Isn't that crazy?
Well, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And one of the things about personal development, I love Tony Robbins. He's definitely one of my favorite people to listen to, and he talks about reading and how if we feel like we're in a low spot in our lives, if we feel like we are struggling, we have a challenge, just go read a book, read an autobiography, read something that helps you get a different perspective, because there's so many people that have gone before you that have gone through so much worse than you are. And it just helps really get your perspective different.
That's so true. I was just, I know you and I just talked about, but I just got off I just recorded an episode for my podcast, which is on purpose. It's on Glenn Beck's Blaze Network, and you can, justinbarclay.com. If you go over to my blog, you'll be able to get it in iTunes and all those places. But I was interviewing Ray Higdon, who, this guy is in network marketing. You're talking about a guy who set the world on fire and continues to reach forward. And one of the big things that he told me in the interview, and you'll have to listen for the full thing, but like one of the big things was like he changed his goals from income goals to impact goals, and the amount of people and who he wanted to impact, and the what that's really done for them has been huge. But I don't know if you know his story, if you know where he came from and what happened in his childhood, but it is really, you'll hear Ray on this episode like you've never heard him before, but it's so important. It's empowering. It's powerful, because you hear how a guy who had some things happen to him, he had a hand dealt to him, and he chose to play those cards, the cards that he was dealt, and to run with it. And we all have these choices on a daily basis to life happens. It's going to happen whether we like it or not. Like, what do we make of it, right? What do you make of these things that happen? And all of that, I got to tell you, is perspective. It's mindset. It's getting around people who see the world differently. And it's powerful. It's like what you're doing here. I mean, Nicolette, this is huge. What you're doing here right now, you're lifting folks up. You're giving people a chance to learn from other people. You're building a community where people can come together. And that is a huge portion and part of, really what it takes to achieve success. We can't do it alone. We have to get around the right people. You have to stay close to the campfire. And that's what's awesome about what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I love people. I love hearing your story. I love hearing other people's stories. I've been listening to your podcast, and I thought the John Lee Dumas podcast was so cool, because you always hear him presenting, to somebody else. I hear you asking other people's questions, but it's so nice to hear your story, to hear their story. Ray Higdon, you always see him presenting, you see him teaching, and he shares bits and pieces of his story, but not in this kind of forum. So actually, he inspires me a lot with he talks about how whenever he was really at his darkest moments, he would force himself to pick up the phone and call people.
Yeah.
And that actually inspired me. I have this little picture. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, wow.
This thing is plastered all over my house.
Mm.
I have tons of these pictures everywhere, because that's my heart. Like that's eventually, I want to be able to go out and feed those kids. And so that's my inspiration. So whenever I'm feeling bad, that's what I look at. So Ray actually inspired me to do that.
It's so true. Whenever we think something's not going our way, first world problems, I mean, it's like something so small and insignificant when you look at the world and how other people have it. And those kids, those orphans, those kids that are starving in third world countries in Africa and all over. I mean, if they had, just a tenth of what we have, they would feel like, they'd made it, that they were rich, It's just, it's crazy what we take for granted.
Yes. And so, I mean, like in network marketing, one of the things that people walk away from easily is they get rejected. There's a component to it where you're not going to make a sale with everybody you talk to. You're not going to have everybody join your business that you share with. And I heard somebody say, are you going to go to your children and say, Mommy gave up on her business and her dream because a mean lady told me no? There's so many challenges that are simple for us to deal with, but we blow them up, and we really overlook how blessed and abundant our lives are, and how simple those little challenges are. Okay, that person said no, let's just move on, because there's worse things in the world going on, and we should be empowered by that.
Well, in Ray's story, really fascinating. He tells a story about how he decided to go for no after reading that book, and he got 20 no's a day. He really conditioned himself that no was was not a bad thing, that it was a good thing. I'm just getting closer to my next yes.
Yeah.
And if you start to reframe the world you see, he went through some pretty dark things in his childhood. And he said to me, he goes, there was a favorite quote of his from Michael Beckwith. I think he said that you have to realize that life couldn't have been any other way, and paraphrasing it. And if we realize that everything that we've gone through, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of it, was designed to get us to where we are now. And we already have everything we need, the tools, everything we need. It's just up to us to make the decision to move forward. And it's powerful, because it comes down to the choices that we make. And Steve Jobs always talks about, when you look back, you connect the dots. For me, looking back, when my life was kind of like in this really weird spot, I was in limbo in 2012. Lost my dream job. Radio was it. It's all I ever wanted to do. Like, when I was in AMWAY, that was the dream for me, was to do something different and to have this freedom lifestyle. And but radio was the only thing. I kind of made jokes while I was working on the air. I said, man, if I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be delivering pizzas. Because I just didn't have anything. I went to, let me be fair. I was enrolled in college, but I didn't go. I didn't really go to class, and I got out of that. And because I was already on the air, I was already working, I was already doing, I said, why would I pay somebody, and nothing against college, I'm not saying that at all, but why would I pay somebody, to teach me things? Because I was curious. And even in high school, I asked, like, in algebra, and I think the teacher really, she loved me for it. But I would ask, like, what are we going to use this for in the real world? What's the application here? I wanted to just get to it. Like, I just wanted to get whatever it was that I was going to do. I just wanted to get down to it. I didn't want to have to go through all the minutia and all this. Let me just cut out as much of this process as possible. And I just remember sitting in class in college and thinking to myself, why am I wasting my time and my money, here doing this? And as I get older now, one thing that I realize is that money's one thing, but time is an unrenewable resource. You cannot make any more of it. So it's even more important. But Steve Jobs talks about connecting the dots when you look back, and all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, is perfect. I know it's hard to say, because there's some people that have really been through some tough things, and I can't imagine some of those things that they've been through. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but it's a personal thing when you come to grips with our challenges make us champions, that our pain can really lead to our purpose, and we can find opportunity in the obstacles. Like that is the idea that I'm super passionate about, and helping people see that perspective and create more freedom in their life in so many different ways.
Yeah. I mean, the challenges suck to go through, but whenever you come on the other side, now you're in a position where you can really go out and therefore help other people that might be going through the same thing, or maybe close to it. You can recognize behaviors, and, you can really speak into somebody's life in ways that, you or I couldn't, depending on the situation.
And not that only that you can, but that's the purpose of all of this. Like, that's why you went through that garbage. It's so that you could come out on the other side and be able to walk with somebody else through it.
Yeah. It's powerful. Powerful. And you had talked earlier about the gentleman that, got this job, this book about the cheese, my cheese. And I think, that's one of the neatest things, is just that we have each other, and that we can. And that's one of the reasons I love network marketing, is because, before being entered into it, I was very isolated. I went through several years of postpartum depression, anxiety. I had some issues that I dealt with in the military. And so I set myself up into essentially put myself in a prison in my home for years. And so joining network marketing is really just you know, there's people there that want to lift you up, that want to help you out, that want to, you know, empower you. And that's the beautiful thing about the day and age that we live in, that we can. And, you know, you were going through college, you were considering all these, you know, why am I spending money on algebra? Is it going to help me with radio? Do you do algebra daily to be able to configure your microphone?
Well, not to be now devil's advocate now, but algebra teaches problem solving skills. So it's actually very useful. But what's funny to me is if my teacher would have said that, well, this is for problem solving skills and you're going to need this in so many different ways in life. But she didn't. She said, this is what you're supposed to do. So do it. Yeah. And that didn't play well with me. Yeah. But I will tell you, it's so important. What you were just saying is amazing, that, you know, I've seen so many and heard so many stories of people who get around people who want more, and it's just like a fire. It sets it off, it ignites you, and it's a crabs in a bucket mentality. If you're hanging around people, I guarantee you, Jim Rome talks about you're the average of the 5 people that you hang around with the most. Just don't believe, just compare each other's lifestyles, compare paychecks, and guaranteed you're going to see, compare the bank accounts, you'll see. So when you hang around with people, you never want to be the smartest person in the room, right? They always say that. And man, I got that lesson this last week. Dave Ramsey was in town for an event with the radio station that I do some work with, and one of those revenue streams we were talking about, and he had a very special client and VIP kind of lunch, and I had lunch with him, and they sent, the folks in the radio station sent a letter afterwards and a note and an email saying, we did a little calculation and we figured out that the total net worth of everyone in attendance that day was about, wait for it, 20 billion with a B, $billion. Well, here I am in Grand Rapids, Michigan today, and Grand Rapids, Michigan is home to a network marketing company you may have heard of. Matter of fact, we mentioned it earlier, AMWAY. What's crazy is all of this started with AMWAY, and here I am now. I'm just down the road from Ada, Michigan, where AMWAY and their companies are located. Matter of fact, just like around the corner from me is where the president of AMWAY, Doug DeVos, lives. Great guy. These are amazing people. And what I have to tell you, too, about these folks is that they think in a different way. Yeah. That's what I got about hanging out with these folks and having lunch with these people. They think in a different way. Of course, Dave talked about what we can do to leave a legacy and make that impact. We talked about that earlier with Ray. But the families, the 2 families that created AMWAY, the DeVos and the Van Andel families, are specifically, and we have so many great families here locally where I'm from in West Michigan, where I live now anyway, but they're specifically, what's the best way to put this? Responsible for the comeback, the economic resurgence, and the success here that this part of the country and our state has had. In Michigan was strongly hit because of NAFTA and trade in the auto industry, et cetera. I mean, hit hard with major recession or depression over the last few years. West Michigan has done really well. And one of the reasons is that these families continually invest in the community. They take, in that company, I think last time I checked, did like $12 billion a year with that company. The families are worth 8, 10, who knows what Forbes will tell you. But they constantly pour in to this community. And that's just a different way of thinking. It's a different mindset. What you were just talking about when you are you going to give up on your dreams because a mean lady told you no? It's just that sort of thing that, like, you realize, like, look, this isn't for everybody, and I don't want everybody, and you be more choosy about the people. Think about this. As you're building a network marketing business, you don't want everybody to join your business. Trust me, because there's some people that you may think, well, hold on, think about this, because you're kind of building a family. Mm-hmm. There's some people that are going to bring some negativity and some things that you may not want in your organization. But we don't tend to think about it that way, especially when you first get started and join a company. So it's just a different mindset altogether. And the cool thing is, as you said, is we learn that by the proximity, the law of proximity, by being around these folks, being with people that are going to lift us up rather than pull us down. That's family, that's friends. God bless them. They mean well. A lot of times it comes out of love, but crabs in a bucket. They want to keep you where you are because they feel secure in knowing where you are in your box and what relation it is to where their box is. And that's kind of how we make sense of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that you have to kind of set yourself up to be a leader going in and know that you're going to lead others, but also that people are going to mimic your behaviors. So if you're working on personal development, if you're working on becoming a leader, developing yourself, your team will see that and they'll do that themselves. But if you're, just in and you're mopey and you're, sad because that mommy told you no, things will be rough for you. And that's what you're going to see on your team. So I want to ask you what strategy do you use for goal setting? I know that you talk to so many entrepreneurs, and I know goal setting is a huge part of having a successful business. What do you do for your business, and how do you set up your goals?
I'm looking for a book here. Because I'll just tell you, I interviewed Michael Hyatt, who, if you don't know who he is, you gotta go look him up. Great guy. Michael Hyatt was the CEO of Thomas Nelson Publishing, and they're a huge publisher. A lot of great books. He's got a great blog. But he wrote a book called Living Forward most recently, and he co-wrote that, actually. And it talks about, goals are one thing, but it talks about really, instead of floating through life, how to set the sail so that you can determine your course, really your GPS coordination. And with goal setting, I mean, there's so many different ways. I just say pick up that book. There's so many different ways to set goals. A lot of it really just it depends upon what you really like and how you operate. For me, what I love about this book and what Michael, and I think the biggest part is that people have an issue with this is, first, number one, they don't know what they want because they haven't explored. What do I really want? You don't know. And a lot of times what people think they want isn't really what they want. I get to the point where, with leaving my full-time job in radio, I realized, hold on, this thing that I always thought I wanted wasn't actually the thing that I really wanted. I wanted something completely different. And not to take you too far off course, but sometimes we don't figure that out until we get there. A lot of times we shoot for these goals or we shoot for these things, and we get there and we're like, is this it? Is that all? Is that, because certain things are going to make us happy, and certain things you realize, like, this is not happiness. So really getting crystal clear about who you are and what it is that you actually want. And what I mean by that is not necessarily your goals, but your priorities, your values. Those are the things that really determine what your happiness level is going to be, and like where you're going to be and where you want to go. If you can use those as a framework to really decide and chart your course, you're going to be so much happier. So again, that's what I recommend, is picking up that Living Forward book by Michael Hyatt.
Okay, great. Thank you. I know I just was introduced into meditations recently. I don't know if you do meditations or visualization, but Brian Finale put out this meditation that he asked you 4 questions to consider. What do you want? Why do you want it? Who must you become to get it? And then what will it cost you if you don't?
Those are powerful.
Yeah. It took my husband and I 4 hours to go over them.
That's powerful. People don't ever sit and ask those questions. And then we wonder why a lot of us are so unhappy. Well, we're unhappy because we're living a life that's completely incongruent with what the answers to those questions are. And we never realized it because we never really sat and thought and did the work. You know, that whole idea of measure twice, cut once, right? It's powerful and it's important for your life too, because you should really assess what it is that you want and do some deep time and thinking about it. Problem is nowadays people don't do that. Nowadays we're too distracted by this thing that's buzzing over here, this thing that's beeping over there. The kids need to go to soccer practice and I need to make dinner and the trash has to go out tonight. And then this thing, I got to get ready for work tomorrow. Whatever all these distractions are, we're constantly being bombarded. We never turn it off long enough. And you can sit in the lotus position and go, you can do all that great stuff. But what the reality of meditation is setting it down long enough so that you can actually just be, and your mind can think through clearly these things. It's simple as going from fight or flight mode to a completely elevated, higher sense of being. For me, it's my faith. So it's knowing that, like, okay, I don't care. I'm getting into politics. I do like to talk about some of those things. You know, I do talk about some of those things in my radio show because I have to. But at the same time, like, I know at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So many people are upset about the presidential race and then the election, and now people are upset about who won. And it's like, hey, this person won. What more can you do now? Now it's time at this point to say, if I worry more about what happens in my own house than who's in the White House, I get more done and I become more successful and I'm happier. So those are the things that I do is I worry about what I can control. I control what I can control. And what I can't, I give it to God. I had a conversation with my mom the other day, and she said, at this point, she had early voting, and she goes, at this point, I give it to God. And I just said, oh, good for you. You got to, because there's things that we just can't control.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I really appreciate and value your time spent with me. You're amazing. Your input is incredible. I would love for you to leave us with a nugget of some gold. What, for those that are listening in on this, what would you suggest would be the best thing that they could do every day to set themselves up for success?
I don't know. I can tell you that so many people have different ideas of what that might be. Routine is very important. It's about finding your routine and the rituals that work for you. What is it that turns you on? What is it the thing? And I bet I've been doing this for the last 4 years. And I'm still working on it, but we don't ever sit and think about this intentionally. And like I say on my podcast, on purpose, pun intended, right? Like, we don't sit and think about how we should be living our lives on purpose. Mm-hmm. What does it look for you? Is it meditation in the morning? Is it exercise? Is it prayer? Is it reading? Or are you just jumping right up and, because I used to do this, jump right up, grab my phone, look at the phone, got to see who emailed me, got to see who texted me, got to see what happened overnight. Did the world explode? I want to find out all about those things. By the way, I've already hit snooze a couple of times. You know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, finally I'll get out of bed, run and brush my teeth, get in the shower, whatever, get some food on the way out the door. Maybe it's not even food. Maybe it's just loading up on the coffee, driving through the drive, whatever it is. My whole purpose of that podcast on purpose is to encourage people to think about life intentionally. How do you want to, and then live it that way? And there's no right or wrong answer. Hal Elrod, who's a great author, wrote the book Miracle Morning, was our first episode guest. And he has an amazing routine that he goes through that's called Savers. And quickly, and you can check out the podcast and look up Hal online. But Savers, it's very simple. Sit in silence for a few minutes. The A is for affirmations. V is for visualization. E is for exercise. R is for reading. And S is for scribing, writing in a journal. I got something that I use every day. I'll show you. I love this 5-minute journal. It's simple. You can grab this on Amazon. I've got a link on my blog.
Yeah,
I've got a discount, but it just asks you a couple. This is simple. Like sit down for a couple, and this is 5 minutes. I don't care who you are. You can do this.
yeah.
Sit for 5 minutes and write. I'm grateful for, and it asks you 3 things you're grateful for. What would make today great? You write those 3 things, and then a daily affirmation, whatever that might be. For me, my affirmation is, I'm so happy and grateful to be living life on purpose, serving God through others, and living fully alive. I write it, and that's it. And that sets up my day. At the end of the day, I write a couple of different things. There are 3 amazing things that happened, and how could I make the day better? That's it. It's just focusing, changing the focus of your mind just for a short moment, and whatever you choose to do and whatever works best for you, that's what you should do, and that's what you should run with. It really does make a difference, because I'm telling you, you're switching out of fight or flight mode to more intentional, a higher way of being, and just an absolute joy and happiness in your life. It makes a big difference.
I love it. I mean, Tony Robbins says success leaves clues, right? And any successful person has got some type of ritual. Like you said, it might not.
You've got one anyway.
Yeah.
This is the purpose. You've got one, whether it serves you or not, is the real question. We all have. See, I had one when I was living that way, and I was doing a morning show, waking up at 3:00 in the morning. I was not a morning person, but it's funny how I've switched and life has changed. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was my point. So you've got a ritual. Think about what it is that you do. And we have these rituals and these routines and these habits have you fallen into on autopilot versus intentionally living your life in a completely different way.
Yeah, so true. And just like our thoughts have over time developed into some habitual thinking, and they're either setting you up for success or they're setting you up for failure. And you're either growing or dying, right? So it's so true, and we just don't think about it. Because I think maybe we just don't think. We've turned off that functionality.
Yeah. Somebody asked me today when I walked in to the radio station. He said, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm doing great." And then we were talking about that, and he said, "Well, sounds like." I said, "It's a choice, I choose to be." I go, "Look, I've been the other way, and trust me, this is better." So yeah, it's not just telling myself that I'm great. It's the fact that life really is great. Life really is different. Why? Because I'm focused on the things that I have. You showed that picture earlier. Well, what do I have? I got a roof over my head. I got clean water. It's warm inside my house. What more could I need? I got food. I mean, what do we need? I mean, and I really do live a great life. Here it is in the afternoon, and I'm on this with you as we record this, and I get the freedom to do it. I've got I just can't, I think what happens is when we get unhappy, we start to focus on what we don't have and why our life isn't great. And we start to compare ourselves to other people, and social media doesn't help with that either sometimes. But, you are enough. Let me say that again because it's important. You are enough. You're created for greatness. You're here for a reason. That's the only reason you're breathing. It's for a reason. So I just encourage you to reach for the stars, and you just might hit the moon. It's absolutely true, and I know it. So. This has been so much fun, by the way. I appreciate you inviting me on today.
Yes, I love it. I love your insights, and I'm with you on that. I often say the thing, I'm very grateful for just the breath in my lungs, how beautiful it tastes,
Yes.
So definitely blessed, abundant life we live. So thank you for your time. You're incredible. I'm so, so honored that you came and spent some time with me. And I'm going to be watching you. I'll be listening to all your podcasts. You definitely have a new fan, a new follower.
Oh, well, thank you. And if you want to check them out, justinbarclay.com, come on over and take a listen. It really started as me reading all these books and then wanting to reach out to some of these people and like being selfish and saying, well, what if I could ask them questions?
Yeah.
Oh, I can. And for me, the best part is that it impacts other people. You get to get the insight too. So why not share it? JustinBarclay.com, by the way, if you want to check it out.
Definitely will. It will be blasted everywhere. Thank you, Justin. Have a great and blessed day.
Thank you. You too.
NicoletteMoore.com. Yeah. Look. You know she got you. Yeah, when it comes to the lead, she gon' lead you straight to the lead generation. It's what it is all about. Recruiting all the prospects, yeah, that's what it's shot. She help you with the coaching. You know that she give you the potion, so you could go and move it through the ocean. Cause she there for you. She really cares. She wanna help you grow. That's why she there. So if you wanna get more, you wanna see this what's in store, NicoletteMoore.com. Get it, y'all.